All right, we'll get back to the NFL in a bit, but in the collegiate ranks, Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes begin their season tomorrow night against North Dakota State. Last year, Colorado finished just 4-8, but that did go over their preseason win total of 3.5. This year, that win total bumped up to 5.5 back in the Big 12. They're laying 10 tomorrow against the Bison, but North Dakota State will be no walk in the park. 6 of the last 7 times they've played an FBS opponent, the Bison won the game outright, including 3 times when they were catching more than a touchdown. They are the second-ranked team in the FCS, Football Championship Subdivision. So, Erin, tell the people what the people are doing with this game at ESPN BET.
Well, let's take a look at where the tickets and money is currently coming in for this game. So right now you got North Dakota State catching 59% of the tickets and then 57% of the money is on Colorado. So a little bit dicey there, a little bit split there. Not too surprising, I would say, but people are obviously always going to want to put money on Colorado just because it's Coach Prime.
Yeah, is that surprising to you, Joe? Is there a sharper side emerging from what you're looking at in this market?
What's surprising is that ESPN Bet is like the only book that hasn't moved off 10.
Yeah.
Now, you'll watch, if you follow Odd Screens, you can line up a bunch of books around the country, around the world, offshores, Vegas, whatever. You can put ESPN Bet in there. You can track the numbers, and as they move, it'll light up and change throughout the course of the day. Earlier today, sometime around 10 a.m. Eastern-ish, don't quote me on that. It was a very busy morning prepping for radio. Kidding. But just universally across the board, you watched all the 10s disappear. You watched them disappear offshore, Costa Rica. You watched them disappear in Vegas to 9.5, and some shots moving to 9. It was an influx of North Dakota State money, and it was all happening at the same time. So you know what that is. That's the sharps taking a position and grabbing the key number of 10 right there. So if you like the dog, I like the dog. ESPN Bet's the spot for you because you're still getting the 10, which is a key number. North Dakota State is no joke. Number 2 in FCS. They're a fantastic program. People forget, with everything Deion's been saying this summer, they forget about the comments. He was complaining about his non-conference schedule early in the summer. This game is why. This is not where you want to open the season if you're a team like Colorado.
All right, so if you are a Bison backer, as Joe points out, go to ESPN Bet right now because that's the best likely you're going to see in the market. Saturday featuring 3 top 5 teams laying at least 30 points in their season opener. Ohio State, Texas, and Bama, all massive favorites this weekend. It's Ohio State's second largest spread over an FBS opponent in more than 45 years. A new college football season means a new face on ESPN Bet Live. Pam Maldonado joining the network and the show. Welcome to the family, Pam. How are we feeling?
I am feeling so good. That introduction you guys have, I am ready to run through a wall right now.
Well, we're going to have you with us all college football season, breaking down some of your favorite plays. So let's start with week 1. What is your favorite play on the board?
You know what they say in college football betting, and it's life is too short to bet the under, so I am taking the over 59.5 between Western Kentucky and Alabama. TJ Finley is the player to watch for the Hilltoppers. He's a transfer quarterback from Texas State who passed over 3,400 yards last season. Finley brings the experience, having already played at LSU and at Auburn, with a strong arm who can make the deep throws and stretch the field. That's essential for Western Kentucky's air raid offense, who returns 2 of the top 3 wide receivers, including Dalvin Smith, second on team in receiving scores. Finley has reliable targets right out of the gate in week 1. Then you have Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe, who can also ball, second in the SEC last year for yards per pass attempt. Facing a Western Kentucky defense with loads of holes to fill, Hilltoppers were 108th out of 133 teams last year in total yards allowed. There's a real possibility that Bama can put a 50 up on the board on their own.
That would help in getting the over in that matchup. So that's a week 1 play. There's still time, though, to bet futures if you want to play that particular game. So what's your favorite win total in FBS to attack right now?
I love Nebraska over 7.5 wins. The Cornhuskers, coming off a 5-7 season last year, are about to pop off because Nebraska has Matt Rule in his second year as head coach. Rule has a proven track record of rebuilding struggling programs and developing talent. He took Temple, a 2-10 team, to a 6-6 team, then took Baylor from 1-11 to 7-6. Nebraska is definitely not short of talent, especially on defense, heavy on returning junior and senior players. We're talking about veteran talent, including senior defensive back Ison Gifford, top 15 in Big Ten for tackles. I expect Nebraska to butter up the competition in the Big Ten, potentially even undefeated midseason.
Ooh, wouldn't that be something for Matt Rule and his Patrick Mahomes look-alike, Dylan Raiola, the freshman who'll be starting at QB. We'll see if he plays like Mahomes. Of course, that is almost impossible. All right, looking across the college landscape, if there is a play you like right now to win a specific conference, what would that be, Pam?
I'm sticking to my home state right now. I'm in Texas, and I'm going to Texas State, ready to shine like the Lone Star. The Bobcats to win the Sun Belt Conference, the second favorites up on the board. I love backing an offense with a high ceiling, and that's what you get from Texas State, who now has Jordan McLeod as quarterback, a transfer from James Madison. McLeod was the 2023 Sun Belt Defensive Player of the Year after leading the conference in passing touchdowns with 35. He's a dual-threat quarterback who can make smart decisions under pressure, plus he's a good fit for the program. Texas State led the Sun Belt in scoring, averaging 37 points per game. McLeod jumped from one high-powered offense to a Texas State team that already had a potent offense. It's a complementary system, so I expect the Bobcats to belt out a Sun Belt victory.
All right, I'd say that's quite a debut here on ESPN Bet Live for Pam Maldonado. And Pam, we look forward to chatting with you throughout the entire college football season. Thanks. How about underdogs in week 0, 4-0 against the spread? So if you were feeling frisky taking all dogs, good for you. Week 1 is now here, and the menu gets much bigger. Before we get to some plays, Joe, I'm curious if we've seen some line movements that the viewers should know about.
Yes, to the aforementioned point on the underdogs, you're seeing some money in some of the key matchups. Texas being 1, opened as a 36.5-point favorite, now down to 32. The reason for that is pretty obvious. Texas has Michigan on deck. The thought process here is play a big first half, get the starters out of the game, show a vanilla look, don't give anything away for the Michigan matchup the following week. West Virginia taking some money coming off a surprising season last year under head coach Neil Brown. USC taking money for their key matchup against LSU, in part because that LSU defense highly questionable, and naturally Florida State being faded by the markets for a couple reasons. Teams historically playing in week 0 that the following week get a rested opponent making their debut in week 1. That rested opponent making their debut, a lot of success against the spread over the last 20 or so years.
All right, well, let's get to our plays we like for week 1. And Erin, you get to start us off.
Well, despite the line moving in favor of West Virginia, I would lay the 8 points with Penn State. Now, they're a better team on offense and defense, of course, bringing back their quarterback, Drew Aller, who was successful in his sophomore season. But overall, for the Nittany Lions, they've been profitable for bettors. When laying 8 or more points, Penn State is 19-6-1 against the number since 2020. That's a 76% cover rate. And yes, West Virginia surprised people last season, but keep in mind, Penn State blew them out in week 1 as a 21-point favorite last year.
Joseph, what are you looking at?
Fresno State plus 21 against Michigan. Fresno State, 14 starters are back, including their quarterback, always feisty, coming out of the Mountain West Conference. This is a big matchup against a Michigan team that, like we mentioned earlier, they've got Texas on deck. So if they're up big in this game, they're going to show that vanilla look in the second half. 15 starters, including head coach Jim Harbaugh, gone from last year's championship team. There's a reason money's been coming in against the Wolverines all offseason.
Let's talk about a situation in the Notre Dame-Texas A&M game. 60% of the bets at ESPN Bet are on the over. 73% of the money, though, is on the under. This is exactly what we saw with the spread in the Florida State-Georgia Tech game. The majority of the bets were on Florida State, but the majority of the money was on the Ramblin' Wreck. When those two are at odds with one another, follow the money, people. In this case, I'm going to follow the money to an under down at Kyle Field. So there's 3 bets. Our favorite for week 1. Best of luck to everyone out there. It's officially college football season back.